In this video, Karen demands my seat, insisting she'd reserved it. Classmate is mad I'm forcing her to eat ethnic food? Go eat a loaf of bread. And a wild Karen got arrested with a felony. Karen demands my seat, insisting she'd reserved it. I have EDS, which in simple terms means that being upright causes my heart rate to increase and my blood pressure to decrease, and the longer I'm standing, the worse it gets. If I'm standing for too long, I black out. I take medication that helps a lot, but I've had to stop taking it in order to get the Rona vaccine, so my heart rate and blood pressure are completely uncontrolled at the moment. I just arrived at my local shopping mall and got hit with a wave of dizziness, which is a surefire sign that I need to sit down before I fall down. There were 3 armchairs together for customers to use, and I sat down in one that had an abandoned, empty shopping trolley next to it. The other 2 seats were occupied. I checked my numbers with the blood pressure monitor I carry with me, and they were pretty bad. BP of 105/68 and HR of 138 BPM. So I downed a few salt tablets and started scrolling through Reddit on my phone while I waited for things to improve. About 2 minutes later, the wild Karen appeared. ETA. Karen matched the stereotype in every conceivable way and looked to be about 45 to 50 years old. She marched over and barked at me to get out of her seat, claiming she'd clearly left her trolley next to it to reserve it. I told her the seats are there for everyone's use and people leave empty trolleys all over the shopping center, so that really didn't mean anything. During previous disputes about seating, I've sometimes told people I couldn't move anyway because of my BP/HR condition, but it's never seemed to help the situation and is none of their business, so I don't tend to mention it unless it's genuinely necessary. Karen, hand on hip, said she didn't ask for my idiot opinions, and that when an adult tells me to jump, the only acceptable response is how high. I laughed and said, "Lady, I'm 32 years old and I don't answer to you. Leave me the hell alone." She scoffed and said, "Bullshit. Don't you dare lie to me. Where the bloody hell are your parents?" I said that's none of her damn business and to stop harassing me because I'm not moving. As I was saying this, an older man vacated one of the other armchairs with a groan and an eye roll. "You and me both, mate." So I gestured to it and said, "There you go, Karen. There's a free seat right there. Happy now?" Karen folded her arms and, with an entirely misplaced air of superiority, said, "That's your seat. This one is mine, and you are going to move, young lady." Entirely done with her shit, I laughed and said a simple no, going back to my phone. At this point, she pretty much lost it. She shouted, "Get your fat arse out of my fucking chair," and kicked the side of the seat hard enough to make me jump. As I responded with a stunned, "Wow, you're legitimately crazy, aren't you?" A member of the cleaning staff took notice and came over. She told Karen to calm down and asked me if I needed her to call security. I was gonna say yes please, but Karen jumped in and snapped, "Please do." And then to me, "I would love to see security drag you out by your ear." He must have been nearby because a security guard quickly appeared and asked me what the problem was. Of course, Karen again jumped in and started telling him that this stroppy little brat had pushed her out of her seat and stolen it from her, and how it was clearly hers because that's my trolley right there. The security guard turned to me and asked if this was what had happened. I said, actually, like I told her, I'm 32 years old and she didn't show up until after I'd sat down. She said she'd reserved the seat and I told her that's not how it works. She's been harassing me to get me to move and your colleague here saw her shouting and kicking the chair. Karen gasped and with an accusational pointed finger shouted, "You lying little bitch," but the cleaner backed me up. The security guard calmly told Karen that she can't claim or reserve seats she's not using and that if she wanted to sit down, there were now 2 free seats right there. The third person had now also left. Karen went red in the face and barked back, "Listen here, you will make her move or I will be having words with your manager." The security guard sighed and told Karen that she had 2 options. Either she could walk away now, leave me alone and be allowed to get on with her day, or he would be escorting her out of the shopping mall. Surprisingly, Karen actually went with a third option. She scoffed and stammered and eventually opted to shout about how unfucking believable this all was and that she was going to the center management's office to get the security guard and the cleaner fired right fucking now, and stormed off without her empty trolley, of course. The The security guard let her leave, and unfortunately, I don't know what happened with her after that point. The security guard apologized to me for her behavior, and I told him it wasn't his fault, and that I was sorry he and the cleaner had to deal with shit like that too. He excused himself, saying he should probably follow her to make sure she made it to the center manager's office without any further incidents along the way, and I chatted with the cleaner a bit about how ridiculous and childish people can be. She told me this was far from the worst or weirdest she'd seen, and that I wouldn't believe the shit some people do, but didn't elaborate. A plus side was that the whole situation had aided in increasing my blood pressure, so I sat there for about another 10 minutes to let my heart rate level out and was then able to get up and carry on with my day. Classmate is mad I'm forcing her to eat ethnic food? Go eat a loaf of bread. This happened about a year ago now when I was in high school. My calculus class was very chill, about 20 kids who were all friendly with each other, a laid-back but enthusiastic teacher, and a light enough workload that we could afford to goof off in class but still learn and do well. At some point in the year, I got really into cooking. It's my stress reliever. My family couldn't possibly eat the amount of food that I made, so I started bringing it into school and hosting Friday parties in my calc class, with my teacher's approval of course. Now, I'm Vietnamese and I live in a predominantly white town. This is only important because it meant that most kids from my town only ate American or European foods and weren't used to eating other ethnic foods. Last year, around Lunar New Year, I wanted to bring in some Vietnamese foods to celebrate. It's a very important time of year for my family. I ended up making a bunch of banh da lan, a steamed layer cake and a traditional Vietnamese dessert. Some of my friends from class found out I was going to bring in a traditional dish and brought in their own traditional dishes from their own cultures, whether they celebrated Lunar New Year or not. We had different Indian, Korean, Filipino, and Spanish desserts. It was great, and I was really excited that my friends wanted to celebrate with me. Apparently, this was an issue for one girl in my class. I would say banh da lan is an acquired taste, so when not a lot of people ate it, I wasn't offended. I knew not everybody would like it. There was a lot of other food anyways. During our lunch period, one of my friends, who wasn't in our class but I knew brought food in, overheard a girl from my class complaining about the food while on the lunch line. Apparently, she was saying really negative things about how I forced everyone to eat weird Chinese foods. Later that day, I texted her just saying I heard she didn't like the food and wanted to know why. I really didn't care when people don't like the food. I make it for myself and bring it in when I have extra anyways. But her calling it weird Chinese foods when she knows I'm Vietnamese didn't sit right with me. Well, she texted back that it was rude of me to bring in weird ethnic foods that nobody would have liked except for me, and said I should know better since most of the class was white. I told her that I bring in food to share because I feel like it and that I don't have an obligation to cater to her tastes. If she has an issue with it, she literally does not have to eat it, and other people can bring in food too, so if she wanted to, she could bring in something more to her tastes. After that, she told me that I shouldn't bring in ethnic food and foreign foods and stick with American foods because we're in America. Excuse me? Like, how much you want to bet if I brought in jambalaya, which originated in Louisiana, she would call it a weird foreign food? Fine, she only wants to eat American foods? Then she can eat American foods. The next week, I brought in a bunch of Oliebollen, a Dutch donut, and started passing them out at the beginning of class. When I got to her desk, I pulled out a loaf of Wonder Bread and plopped it on her desk saying, "Sorry, but these are Dutch, too ethnic. Here you go, all American cuisine." Later, she texted me asking what the F my problem was, so I told her that almost every single food I brought in this year was ethnic and that it pissed me off she only had an issue when it wasn't European. She's entitled to not liking Asian foods, but if you're gonna complain about it being too ethnic, then you better have the same attitude when the ethnic food is white, and especially don't call another person's culture weird. She didn't complain about the food again. A wild Karen got arrested with a felony. I'm a 35-year-old father of 2 boys. I have PTSD due to time overseas and have the physical scars to match the mental scars. I have an incredible wife that knows me and knows what situations I should avoid. My children are amazing, but this story revolves around my youngest son and my service dog. Jay, my youngest son, has autism, and we share a special bond because some things that set him off also put my teeth on edge. Spike, my English bulldog, he's my service dog. He's well-trained, lazy, judgmental, and overall uninterested in anything he can't eat. He's also very in tune to Jay and my emotions and will provide a distraction when we get overwhelmed. Basically, he's like Oh, you're stressed? Here, scratch my butt. You'll feel better, and I'll get attention. It's a win-win. The story. My family recently moved to Texas. Because we now live very close to an amusement park, we got memberships. Shout out to the park for being amazing when it comes to special needs. This particular park in Arlington, Texas has a special program for autistic people. They have rooms set aside to chill if you're overstimulated so you can relax, go back out, get overstimulated again, and around you go. With Jay, we also don't have to wait in lines. This is a huge thing and the cause of this story. The park has a pass that lets you skip most of the lines and they charge an arm and a leg for this. However, with that pass, you still end up in a line of hundreds of other people that also have that pass. Jay gets no lines at all. We get a special pass and we go on through the exit. The worker signs the pass and we go on the ride. Jay has a favorite ride, the log ride. There have been days that we would ride the log ride over and over, then eat. We also have the food pass which we pay for, then go back to the log ride. On this day, T, my oldest, and Jay wanted to go on the log ride, so we made our way to the exit and left the wife and Spike in the shade because someone has to stay with him, and bulldogs plus rides don't mix. As we're going in the exit, a woman started screaming at us. I have absolutely no hearing on my right side, thanks high pressure wave, so didn't consider it worth turning my head to listen. Now, because we ride this ride almost exclusively, the workers on this ride know us by name and sight. Jay even talks to them, which is rare. We go in, show the pass, sit, and ride. This time though, Tabitha, I'll call her Tabitha because Karen is overused, the woman that was screaming at us as we were walking in through the out made her way to where the speedy pass ends at the ride where a red shirt will check her pass and let her go on her way. She didn't even want to ride. She just wanted to yell about us going in through the exit and how we were abusing the system. Now anyone that looks at Jay can see he's in a world all on his own and wouldn't be surprised if he's literally reading the future or talking to aliens. He's awesome. The red shirt tries to calm her down. T is getting upset because he's a normal 9-year-old and adults yelling is uncool. Jay making his excited sounds and waiting for the log to stop so he can get in. We get in, and as we float away, we still hear Tabitha screaming. The ride ends and we exit. We figured we'd never see Tabitha again, but obviously it didn't go that way. Tabitha appeared like a dark brother after making the sacrifice. Elder Scrolls reference. Hooting and screaming. She's screaming that just because Jay is an R word doesn't mean we get extra rights. The screaming causes Jay to let out his super screech. Now anyone that knows autism knows that autistic kids have superpowers. In Jay's case, it's a supersonic ear-shattering high-pitched screech that makes your ears swim and makes it feel like things in your head are moving that shouldn't. This whole time Spike was laying on the ground in the foggy position as bulldogs do, just looking at Tabitha like she's a rabid dog but not worth getting up for. As we're being screamed at, I see 2 officers approaching from behind Tabitha. I smile. My smile must have broke Tabitha because she hauls off and kicks Spike. This flips my switch because now my family is literally under attack and I start to react. Before I could make contact, Tabitha is already in the air being held, carried half dragged away while being cuffed. Now in front of me is a well-dressed and pissed-looking officer. He tells us that he heard the screech and started heading to it because they thought a ride broke or something bad happened. I take the time to unflip that switch and examine Spike. He's limping and crying. I feel his hips and feel that his hip is dislocated. I jokingly ask the officer to walk away and let me get some. He of course has no humor to this but also can tell I had a career. He asks what happened and we all explain what happened from A to Z. He asks if Spike is a service dog. I say yes. He smiles. I'm not in a smile mood, but it catches me off guard. He explains that in Texas, to intentionally injure a service dog is a felony. By this time, park security arrived and issued a trespass order for Tabitha. The officers ask if I want to press charges. I look at Spike and look back. Yes, I say. Tabitha and her tiny mouse-like husband start to freak out as Tabitha is loaded onto a golf cart. We hop on a cart too and leave to go to the vet. The vet fixed Spike and all is well. We went back the next day with Spike in a stroller. No one batted an eye and everyone loves the bulldog in a stroller. I let people pet him. He's a hoot and the park is an amazing place. I've been contacted by the investigating officer and have given depositions. I may have to testify, but I look forward to sitting on the bench with Spike on my lap.